Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for another match of the Hong Kong Sevens. This one, a ninth place playoff game between Kenya and South Africa. Now, maybe a lot lower than the Blitzboks would have anticipated for this competition. They were in a tough group with New Zealand, Australia, and Uruguay. And now, they're in that scenario. Ninth is nice. They were sitting fourth heading into this leg of the Sevens. Fiji made it through to the semis. Spain missed out, but they'll still get a few more points for playing off for fifth up against New Zealand. And then alongside that, you have got, of course, Argentina, who are once again a real contender when it comes to the overall standings. Looking through at the starting lineups, first of all, for the Kenyans, it will be Kevin Waikesa, Samuel Azati, Amaitsa, Abukusi, Safari, Patrick Odongo Okongo, and also Vincent Onyala, the last man. And the starting side for the Blitzboks, they have gone with a pretty strong lineup here for their last contest. Ryan Oosterhuizen, Tristan Lades, Shilton van Wyk, Xander Reinders, Gino Caputo, also Ricardo James Duarte, and Impi Visa. Now, Caputo got himself 2 tries in that last match, I believe, but at the moment for South Africa, they're just trying to find their rhythm. They haven't quite been as consistent and as clinical as we would normally see from this Blitzboks team. Of course, they will be in action next week in the Singapore Sevens. All these sides will be. Kenya managing to pull off the upset in the opening contest of their group stage. They were able to beat Spain, but then from there, the Spanish getting 2 wins from 2 to secure themselves their spot through to those quarterfinals. But off the bench, Donovan Don, Saviwa Soyuz-Wapi, DeWalt Human, Selvin David, Zane Davids, all options for the South Africans. Brian Tunga will make his way off the bench for Kenya, but only 4 options for the Kenyans in this contest. Of course, let me know your score predictions in the comments. Anytime that the South Africans have faced a slightly lower ranked side throughout this competition, they have managed to win the game comfortably. And in both cases, that has been Uruguay, who have been the unlucky team, who have had a lot of points put on them. But Kenya, got to remember, it wasn't too long ago that the Olympic qualifications were taking place and the Kenyans qualified ahead of the South Africans and got to be a part of that big Olympics comp. But the stadium is looking relatively packed for the final day of Sevens actions. We've got semi-finals only a couple hours away. The final taking place in about 6.5. We will be covering those ones on the channel as well. We see there for the Kenyans, they were able to beat the USA 17 points to 10 in their most recent fixture. They lost up against Great Britain 12 points to 7. They lost to France 14 points to 7. So honestly, they've had a pretty good run here in the Sevens. It's just a little bit unfortunate for Kenya that they didn't quite get a victory in one of those important games in the middle patch, whether that was up against GB or France. That would have actually secured them a spot through to the quarterfinals. But we are ready to go. South Africa are going to be kicking this one off from left to right. Australia used a brilliant tactic up against the Blitzboks, which was don't let them have the ball. And it's normally a pretty effective one in Sevens. Already, Kenya have failed that task as South Africa retained their kickoff, and now it's danger. Ricardo James Duarte in the middle of the field goes off to Tristan Lades, puts the ball on the inside, off to Shilton van Wyk, goes through, and South Africa score in the first 20 seconds of this matchup. So, like I said, possession can be absolutely key in a game of Sevens. The third try for Shilton van Wyk of the Hong Kong Sevens. They just left that channel for him to be able to run through. Got sold by the dummy. Is there a lot of games next week? Says Mohadin. A huge amount of games next week. We've got the Singapore Sevens. We've got the Champions and Challenge Cups that are taking place for the European rugby side of things, which of course South Africa are now a part of. And then alongside that, we've also got the regular Super Rugby. This week we'll end up with 5 games rather than 4 in total. So this weekend was hectic, but it's actually going to be more hectic next week. Nicely taken by the Kenyans just outside of their 22. Patrick Odongo Okongo on across to the right-hand side here for the Kenyans. A little bit of a skip. Trying to sneak their way through, almost getting held up in a rolling maul. Tristan Lades trying to show off his football skills, but Kevin Waikesa does end up booting that ball into touch. Ricardo James Duarte. They thought about taking that one quickly, but will decide against it. For South Africa, they are once again in the scenario of They'd love to be able to win this game comfortably, but the more they win this game by, the more disappointment, I guess you could say, there is in a way, because they wanted to do that the game prior. And the game prior to that as well, of course. When is the Sevens finals? There's Mochanen. It's going to be taking place at around, I believe, for South African time, it will be 12:40-ish in the afternoon. I believe that is going to be when it does start up. Now going to be off to the right-hand side after the free kick is awarded to the Blitzboks. Trying to find their way through the defensive line, hanging on to it was Capito. Mentioned about how he managed to score himself a couple tries in the last game up against Uruguay. Now Ryan Ustahazen trying to use his power to get through this defence of the Kenyans, but Azati holds on to him. Tristan Lades, one more on the outside, and Capito does score his first try of the contest. That is now his fourth in the Hong Kong Sevens. He's had four throughout his career, as it is his debut competition. Just 3-on-3 out wide, using the width to their advantage there, South Africa. Now another chance to line up this kick for Ricardo James Duarte. Just misses away to the left. So that's going to make the score now 12-0 in favour of the Blitzboks. Only 3 minutes gone in this contest too, so plenty of time for South Africa to score more, but also for Kenya to be able to make a bit of a comeback here. I believe we are already at the point where the Kenyans have conceded as many tries as they have throughout the whole competition. If they concede one more, it would be the most. But now, Kenya going to the short side. Looked like that closed down pretty quickly for Patrick Odongo Okongo, who once again has been in great try-scoring form throughout this competition. Trying to roll out of there was Ricardo James Duarte, but he is going to be penalised yet again. Actually quite a penalty-ridden tournament for James Duarte. Kenya, Zati looks like he will be kicking this one into touch rather than going for the tap and go. There's a decent amount of distance on it too, about 40 metres out from the Blitzboks line here for Kenya. Anyone wondering, our next live stream that we will be doing, it is the semi-final taking place between Australia and Argentina. That is at 7 p.m, followed closely by 7:23 p.m, which will be Fiji versus France. France causing a bit of an upset last night after being 14-0 down. Come back to beat New Zealand 21-14. Just shows that you cannot underestimate a side's ability to come back in a game of sevens, which is why Kenya will still feel a little bit confident here. They have got themselves another penalty after Xander Reinders has been pinged for offside. 2.5 minutes now left in the first half. And again, Kenya look towards that touchline. Azati doesn't find touch this time, unfortunately. Maybe just rushing that kick a little bit. Ricardo James Duarte certainly wants to make him pay. He's going to be piercing through the defensive line of the Kenyans. But Azati tries to get straight back in there. Kevin Waikesa rushing up. The Blitzboks moving the ball nicely. The cover defence from Kenya drifting across. Might be needed very soon. Patrick Odongo Okongo does get into the breakdown, but does end up being penalised in that case. Tristan Lades goes off to Ryan Ustahazen. Now Mpifisa, great low tackle on him, pops out the back door, which gives South Africa just a little bit more momentum just for now, and they're going to try and use the most of it. Ricardo James Duarte with the spin. He's got a Kenyan right on his back, who's managed to slap the ball away and keep it on the side of Kenya. That was very risky, but it works out, and now Patrick Odongo Okongo. If he can shift this one out to the right-hand side, they've already got the penalty advantage as well, but the cover defence of South Africa having a scramble here. Try and get into position. Tristan Lades manages to make the tackle, getting work towards the sideline. Oh, Xander Reinders showing off his strength. Pushing Kenya towards the sideline. Kevin Waikesa goes to ground onto the ball for Mpifisa, but he's lost his footing. So it will be another penalty to Kenya. It's the fast-paced nature of the Sevens. There is so much that happens in such a short amount of time. Little flick pass out the back from Kenya. Does roll to Patrick Odongo Okongo. He goes through. Shilton Funvake has got plenty of pace. Pop pass up. Another offload. Funvake has to make another tackle in a row. A little bit slow getting back was Ricardo James Duarte. A little bit of fatigue starting to set in, but Kenya have not given up, and they will go through with a Maitsa, and they get back into this contest just before the halftime break. That'll be his first try of the Hong Kong Sevens, his 7th of the Sevens 2025 circuit. Patrick Odongo Okongo, it's another missed tackle from Ricardo James Duarte. I don't want to sound harsh, but that man has had far from his best competition, and it's cost the Blitzboks a little bit. He's not, of course, individually to blame for what has happened for them, but it certainly hasn't helped. Now, Kenya, they managed to get the kick over. Now, doing up the shoelaces before kicking this one off. I'm not sure whether or not this counts towards the time. I'd like to think that the time would be off while he is doing it. Now 6 seconds remaining in this first half. Looks like there might be a bit of an injury here for Cupido, or at least he's walking very gingerly. That one's going to be kicked off now by Kenya, just travelling the 10, knocked on by Ricardo James Duarte. Just after I said I don't want to be harsh, but he's messed up a little bit, then he messes up again. Going off to the right-hand side, Amaitsa passes up one more to the side. Good cutting in run from Kevin Waikesa, hit by Xander Reinders. Now 40 metres out from the South African line. I think Reinders was trying to ask for a penalty for being held in the breakdown. Referee doesn't abide. Now still moving forward here. Kenya. Patrick Odongo Okongo plays half, goes across to Amaitsa, the try scorer. Kevin Waikesa again. And now Ryan Ustays, and he got over the ball. And then there's a little knock on there, but they will go back for the original penalty for not releasing. Now South Africa have a decision to make. Do they want to risk going for another try here, or do they want to just take the lead going into halftime? Now, something that New Zealand often do is take the risk, and in that game up against France, it backfired. They conceded late. South Africa are going to try and do the same here. They're going to go for the risky player trying to score one last try, but if they then concede, they'll go into halftime down by the 2 points. When is the semi-finals? It has taken place in an hour and 45 minutes for the first one between Argentina and Australia, and then the Fijian final will be in 2 hours 10 minutes up against the French. We are going to be covering both of them on the channel. We've got them both scheduled as well, if that makes it a little bit easier to be able to follow when all the matches are taking place. But yeah, we're going to be covering a lot of the big games today, so be sure to stick around. But Kenya now have got the possession of Ryan Osterhuizen. I think he might have taken a head knock here. He doesn't look too flash after the way that did connect. Little kick him behind from the Kenyans, winning the foot race. Grub it forward again. You know what I just said about how it could cost the Blitzboks? It just did. They have conceded late in the half, 12 points to 12. And unfortunately, that is once again a sign of an indecisive side, which are normally so clinical with their decision-making. Should have known that Kenya were going to be in the fight right to the end of that first half. And Kenya have now given themselves a massive chance going into the second 7 minutes that South Africa shouldn't have even given as an option. They're just checking the ground again. It's completely fine. Brilliant try. And there's foul play by Ryan Oosthuizen, who took the head knock after South Africa went for that extra play. And he's now going to be yellow carded for 2 minutes. It can't get much worse for what happened in that last little play. They won the penalty. Ryan Oosthuizen, it's head on head. So he's going to be off the field now. We see it, yeah, it just goes, yeah, that's really bad for Ryan Oosthuizen. Just gets his head in the completely wrong place. Ends up taking the knock almost under the chin. So he's probably lucky to still have all his teeth intact, Ryan Oosthuizen. And in fact, in that case, he's probably lucky just to get the yellow card because he just ended up like a plank standing straight upright. That one's going to be short of the conversion, but the score at halftime, 12-all between Kenya and South Africa. They are well and truly in for it, the Kenyans here. But South Africa, they are such a dangerous side that they could turn it on in the second half, score 3 or 4 tries within that 7-minute period. And Kenya will know that, which is why when they were given that chance to score a try later in the first half, they well and truly took that opportunity because they had nothing to lose. And now it's anyone's game for the second 7 minutes. Second half, I would say we will see a aggressive start from the Kenyans. Whether or not we get to see the same from South Africa, it's still a wait-and-see situation, but they've got a lot of skill and a lot of great players to come off the bench, whether that's Saviwe Sawyers Wapi, whether that is the Walt Human, the Davids, even if you want, says Roman. Even if you want. Says Roman. It's in like the score. Yeah, very close between these two sides. Hello, how are you? Says Demon. Know him very well. We've still got a few more matches of the Sevens that we are covering. We've got 3 more matches scheduled, but we will also be doing the bronze final as well as the other matchup taking place for the final, and the women's final will be coming. So I believe we will still have another 6 live streams for the Sevens today that we are going to be doing on the channel. So anyone who is new, of course, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. What time is the semi? Says Demon. So the first semi-final between Argentina and Australia will be happening in 1 hour 45 minutes, 7 p.m. New Zealand time. And then the second semi-final will be at 7:23, which is in about 2 hours 10 minutes, somewhere around there. But we are going to be covering both of them on the channel, both scheduled. So, yeah, and one of these live streams, in fact, will take you over to the next one, which will be the semi-final between Australia and Argentina. So that will help you out too for time-wise. But Sullivan Davids, he has now made his way onto the field. South Africa only playing with the 6 men at the moment, and Impivisa running out of space down the wing. And they get driven into touch. How was Kiwi Rob's reaction when the New Zealand Sevens team lost to South Africa? Says Demon. I mean, New Zealand beat South Africa in the Sevens one. But South Africa sadly did not qualify for the quarterfinals. France were the team that beat New Zealand. And that was a bit of bad decision-making from New Zealand. In fact, it was actually the same scenario as we saw at the end of this first half, how they could have kicked it into touch with a lead at half-time, but they decided to go for one last attack, and France managed to score. And in the end, that was the difference. But nicely taken by Kenya. They've got the possession about 40 metres out from the line. They will believe that they can do a massive upset here on the Sevens circuit, and a couple extra points could be the difference between Kenya qualifying for next year's competition and missing out. Kenya to the world, says Innocent there. And go Kenya, says Novmum. Now Impivisa wrestling them towards the touchline, but Kenya now still with the ball. Amaitsa going across into the middle of the field to Safari, who hasn't had a huge amount of possession throughout this. Patrick Odongo-Okongo, such a dangerous player with ball in hand, going short side now. Oh, a little bit of a slip there from Xander Reinders. We should also remember South Africa still only have 6 men on the field for the next 30 seconds. Patrick Odongo-Okongo lures in 2 defenders. Reinders tries to get in there, and there was a knock-on the ground from Kenya, which gives the Blitzboks the possession 5 metres out from their own try line. Odongo-Okongo disappointed with that one. Felt like he was able to lure in those 2 defenders just to lose the ball at the last moment. Hi, Alan Hamish says, Robert, welcome in, mate. Hope you're doing extremely well. Hope you're well rested. I mentioned about how you had very little sleep over the weekend of the cricket and the rugby and everything that has taken place. So hopefully you've been able to catch up a little bit. Now, Sullivan Davids. So we're about to see a change being made for South Africa. Ryan Oosthuizen would make his way back on, but it's in fact going to be Xander Reinders off for Zane Davids. And I believe they can now bring one more player back out there, but they haven't done it yet. Ilaria has said hi. I do apologise about the pronunciation of your name. I always get it wrong, don't I? But now, ball's going to be fed in. All stolen by Kenya at scrum time. That is quite a hard thing to do in a game of sevens because of how short and compact the scrums are, but passing it out wide. Kenya stepping back in with Patrick Odongo-Okongo. And they score their 3rd of the match. That is his 5th of the Hong Kong Sevens. He's had 17 throughout this tournament. In terms of this year, I just woke up from a power nap. Says Robert V, and yes, says Novmum. And Patrick Odongo-Okongo, just to put into perspective how monumental this man's rise to, I guess you could say, fame for the Kenyans has been. He only has 19 tries in his career. He scored 2 at the end of last season. They said, yeah, we'll bring him back for another one. And he's gone on to score 17, which is almost more than pretty much anyone else on the Sevens circuit, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 players. Oh, that one hasn't gone 10 from the Kenyans. In fact, that's gone backwards and behind where the kick was taken. He's got the tries on both teams. So for the Kenyans, we've seen Patrick Odongo-Okongo. He has scored 1. We saw Amaitsa score. I'm not actually too sure. Oh, it might have been Okongo as well, actually, who got the 2nd try for Kenya. And then for the South Africans, They have managed to score the 2. One of them was Shilton Van Wyk. And that is going to be the penalty there going against South Africa. Oh, a little bit of a head collision. Tristan Lades might have taken a knock on the nose. And then the other try was scored by Impivisa out wide, I believe. Yeah, Lades took a bit of a knock on the nose. Sorry, both. Not my. I apologise. I knew what you meant. It's all good. It looks like just a little bit of strapping going on to... Oh no, in fact, it's going to be an ice pack on the ribs for one of the Kenyan players. That is not really what you want at this stage of the contest. We're going to see it here. Yeah, so just after the whistle, one of the Kenyan players, it looked like he actually hit him more on the chest, but Tristan Lades holds his nose. Oh. Okay, one of the commentators just called him out. He just said, "Are we playing soccer? Come on, Tristan." So, you know, if one of the commentators is calling you out, you know you haven't done too well in terms of trying to milk the penalty. Now, 3 minutes remaining here. Kenya have got themselves the 5-point lead. Now going off to the right-hand side. If they can get it into Okongo's hands again, like they just have. Oosthuizen is actually back out on the field. I thought he would have gone for the HIA. What stadium is this in? It is a brand new one in Hong Kong. At least brand new to the Sevens, knocked on from the Vault Human. But yeah, not the historic Hong Kong Sevens stadium that we are used to. They have changed the location. I can't quite remember the name of it, unfortunately, off the top of my head. But yeah, there's a different location in Hong Kong. So someone will have the inaugural championship one here. And at the moment, there's only 4 sides that can do that. France, Fiji, Australia, and Argentina. Match stats at the moment, 24 carries for the Kenyans compared to the 12 carries of South Africa. We're seeing 52 passes from the Kenyans. This is probably the most I've had the ball, even in those matches that they were winning. I don't think they had it quite this much. There's going to be a penalty advantage in favour of the Kenyans in that scrum. Only about 10 metres out from their line. Inside ball to Patrick Okongo, who goes around the outside again. Great pace shown by the number 11 for Kenya. Getting into that breakdown straight away, though. Donovan Don does win the penalty. Now Devold Uman tries to pierce through. Rough pass there. Kenya jumping on it, but Selvin Davids is there. Knocks the ball on. Twice there for South Africa. And Kenya, once again, going to try and get that line break. Hanging on to this one. A little bit more of a slower pace into that breakdown. The sides are fatiguing. Kenya can score once more. They should almost be able to secure this game. The key word there is almost, though, as South Africa know how to score tries in very quick succession, but only 100 seconds remaining now. Kenya, says Papi. Yeah, this has been a brilliant performance from the Kenyans. And a penalty, though, goes the way of South Africa. And South Africa are only one computer try away from being in the lead in this contest. And that is something that they've done so many times, break the hearts of their opposition by scoring late. And this is what they're going to try and do here. Zane Davids wrestled down 5 metres out from the line. Kenya not able to get that turnover. Selvin Davids now going off to the left-hand side. Safiwe Soyas Wapi, they've got the penalty advantage as well. Here the Blitzboks, the Wild Human inside ball to the veteran who does get over the line and score it. I think they'll just check to see if it's a double movement. When is the next Chiefs game? Says Ilaria. Next game for the Chiefs will be happening next weekend. I assume you're talking the Chiefs from Super Rugby rather than the either Exeter Chiefs or Kansas City Chiefs. But next game for the Chiefs will be on Friday night up against the Reds. And that'll be at 7:05. Right. Is this more than one movement? No, it is not. So Saviwe Soyas Wape scores the all-important try. Now, it is an important one, of course, but this kick now has extra weight on it. If it goes over, South Africa take the lead with 50 seconds remaining. If this kick misses, these two sides have a chance of going to golden point. It looks like they're going to be using up as much time as they can. The Wild Human does get the kick straight over. So now, with only 50 seconds remaining, South Africa have got themselves the 2-point lead. They have been not leading throughout this whole second half. In fact, it was drawn for a start. Then Kenya were able to score themselves their try. But can they close it out here? The Blitzboks. 2 points is all the difference. Now, Kenya have missed 2 of their 3 attempts at the post. So if they were to win a penalty about 20, 30 metres out, we can't guarantee that it would go over for the win. But it's kicked off high by Selvin Davids, going up for it and nicely taken by the Kenyans, held up for a little while. Zane Davids makes the tackle there. Kenya with the last possession of this contest, I believe. 20 seconds left. They are inside of their own 22. Davald Human going in for the turnover. Can't quite get it. Now Patrick Odongo Okongo. I'm looking around for that man because, of course, he can bring that impact. Good shot coming in on Kevin Wakesa. Kenya for life, says Brian. I feel like this game proves more than anything that Kenya should have never been taken off the Seventh Circuit. The intensity that they bring to the game, the excitement, the energy from the crowd. It's just always awesome watching a Kenyan game. Kevin Wakesa, he's going to be held up here in the rolling maul, although it didn't stay up for long enough. So, in fact, it is going to be now still the Kenyans' ball. They are 30 seconds past the regular siren. That did call for full time. So, last attacking chance still in play here for Kenya. Two-man tackle from Mpivisa, as well as Zane Davids. That's a pretty hefty two-man tackle. Bit of a rough pass there. Bouncing up, sitting up for the Kenyans now, though. Missed tackle from Davald Human. Missed tackle from Selvin Davids. And those are the type of comments that you don't really want when you're trying to defend a 2-point lead, is missing those challenges. Patrick Odongo Okongo goes back on the inside. Another offload here from Kenya. Can they do a little bit of a standing start now? A regrouping period, you could call it. Trying to work out what their next move is going to be. The last thing they want to do, though, is end up giving away the penalty. All penalty goes the way of Kenya. And that is because South Africa, no clear release from the two men who got in there. Zane Davis was offside, so wasn't able to make the tackle. Kenya move into South Africa's half, looking for the offload, but that ball's going to be dropped. Salomon Davis tries to kick it into touch, messes it up. It's going to be play on now. It's going to be kicked towards the touchline. And the ball just rolls dead for South Africa. They scramble, they survive, and they get 9th place in the Hong Kong Sevens. But boy, did they almost just butcher that right at the last moment. Selvin Davids, someone who's normally cool, composed, he's laughing about it now because it didn't cost them, but he tried to boot the ball out. It went about 4 metres, and then Kenya regathered for half a second. And then from there, it was another fly kick coming from South Africa to get that ball dead, in which it did only just roll there. But the win in this contest, 19 points to 17. The South Africans get the job done. There are some exhausted players out there on the park. This will be the only game for these two sides today, so that is one bonus about this contest. But our next game, ladies and gents, it's going to be in 1 hour, 30 minutes time, and that is going to be between Argentina and Australia. Then after that, it is Fiji versus France in the other semi-final. Call down BBG, says Samuel there, and help me to link to watch, please. Depends on where you are in the world. I would recommend checking out the World Rugby Sevens website, as they've got the list of all of the locations that can watch the games, and also who are the broadcasters for those locations. So I would definitely recommend doing that. But nonetheless, we'll be back in 90 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, for the semi-finals, I do thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I should also mention we're going to be back next week for Singapore, so more games for the Blitzboks, more games for Kenya, just around the corner. What time is that at? 90 minutes, so 1 hour 30. It's going to be a 7 p.m. kickoff here in New Zealand, but whatever time it is for you at the moment, add 90 minutes, and that's where you're going to be sitting for that one. But also, once this live stream ends, it's going to take you straight over to that next live stream, and that will tell you how much time remaining till it does go live as well. But thank you all very much for tuning in, and I will see you all for the next one.